It's time for you to stop villainizing yourself. It's time for you to stop hating yourself. It's time for you to stop getting so down on yourself for the emotions and the feelings that you feel. Especially if you have entered this spiritual or self-help community and you feel like there's no one talking about the intensity of emotions that you're feeling. What I'm going to be doing in this video is addressing that, telling you that I see you, I hear you. There's actually a way to integrate the intensity of emotions that you feel while not going crazy. And I'm also going to teach you how to reprogram your relationship with anger and really talk about what's actually going on here. Not from a space of, oh, just do something different. Oh, just go let it out somewhere else. No, we're going to be talking about it head on. And we're also going to be talking about how anger is actually your friend here. It is not your enemy. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Ifákóredé. I help to open roads. And what that means is right now I'm teaching how to actually do shadow work that will transform your relationship with yourself and not just feel like a Band-Aid over an open wound. So let's dive in. There's a lot of experience that I have with this, not just from the coaching that I've done for the past 7 years, but also through my own experience. If you guys have seen some of my videos before, you guys know that I used to have some anger issues. I was arrested for fighting when I was in college and all this other kind of stuff that's happened really as a result of me being suppressed and silenced for so long and for a majority of my life. I was taught by my mom that it's better to lie and it's better to just pretend like you are the person who other people want you to be. But being in that state of inauthenticity for an extended amount of time is literally going to create a major blockage in your anahata, in your heart chakra. And the heart chakra is the chakra that is connected with wrath, the 7th deadly sin of wrath. Now, before you even go ask any questions, I am writing a free ebook for everyone on my newsletter. You'll get it. A free ebook called Black Moon that is self-proclaimed the best shadow work workbook ever known. I combine my background in neuroscience, bachelor's and masters, with the 7 deadly sins, with my spiritual practice, the Isefa tradition of Ifa, combining stories of the Orisha, as well as, of course, real deal shadow work. How to actually heal. And again, that's going to be free for everyone in my newsletter, so the link is in my bio. But the heart chakra is the anahata is what is connected to this energy of wrath. And I want to make one clear distinction before we even go forward. Wrath is not the problem here. I want you to look at me when I say this if you're not already looking at me. Wrath is not the problem here. Anger is not the problem here. I want you to repeat after me. Say this out loud if you can. Anger is my friend. Anger is my friend. Did you say it? Anger is my friend. Anger is not the issue. When we think about the anahata, it's not just simply surface level self-love. The anahata is all about the path of the heart, the journey of the heart, which is really about authenticity, enlightenment, and acceptance that leads into a space of transformation. The anahata is where we enter the light body that helps us navigate the astral realms. But the light body is entered through enlightenment, and enlightenment really is shining a light on everything, all the aspects of you, all the things that you don't want to see, and coming into a state of peace and acceptance of it. From that state of enlightenment, that is how we enter the light body. But enlightenment is blocked, authenticity is blocked, the heart chakra is blocked, the anahata is blocked through lying to ourselves. Lying to ourselves about what feels good for us, lying to ourselves about what feels authentic to us, lying to ourselves and allowing other people to really dictate who we are. So I want to make another clarification before we get started. There is no such thing as someone who is born angry. I'm going to repeat that once again. I don't care if you disagree with me. There is no such thing that's of someone being born angry. There's only people who are born highly sensitive. And so what that means, if we really understand what anger truly is, and again, this is about to be a lot of information packed in one small video, but what anger truly is it does two things. It has two jobs. Number one, it protects us from potential threats. It allows us to, be on that state of self-defense, defending our physical bodies or even our emotional bodies as well. And anger also lets us know that a boundary has been crossed. And so when we have a highly sensitive child or a highly sensitive individual that then has their boundary being crossed emotionally, God forbid, emotionally, physically, even, if we think about sexual trauma or things like that, boundary being crossed, and especially, God forbid, if it happens multiple times and the child feels like it cannot speak up for themselves, and honestly, it's the caregiver's responsibility to speak up for the child, but what happens when your caregiver is the one inducing this trauma? What ends up happening is that the child begins to repress that natural urge to protect itself. And that repression then causes that energy of anger to start to blossom within the psyche, within the body, and with the heart chakra. And so anger is never the issue here. What the issue really is when anger is not expressed in the present. Now, of course, we cannot blame the child for not expressing the anger, especially in the face of traumatic events. But what ends up happening is that a very sensitive child who has their boundary being overstepped over and over and over again ends up turning into an angry adult. And one of the most interesting ways that we see this manifest is through road rage. Many times people who have intense road rage, from the case studies that I've done and from the people that I've worked with, I've been doing this work for 7 years, the people who have intense road rage are people who have been through a lot of physical trauma, who have felt like they could not stand up for themselves, who maybe are holding a deep, dark secret about their family, about something that's happened to them. And so when they come on the road, and they get in their car and they're driving in their car and someone cuts them off or someone does something, whatever the case is, they use that anger from the past to disproportionately express a boundary being crossed in the present. And so I want to say that to you again. The only problem that anger, or the only time that anger is a problem, is when anger from the past is expressed in the present. That's when it becomes disproportionate. I'm going to use myself as an example again. Growing up in Buddhist temple, growing up with a hippy-dippy mom, growing up in the New Age spiritual community, something that you always are taught, and you can, let me know if this is also your experience. Something that we're always taught is that anger is not a good emotion. Anger is bad. We should not be expressing anger, that we should just meditate it out or do the yoga or do whatever the case that's going to make us feel less angry. Anger is an emotion to fear and to villainize ourselves for, but in reality, we need anger to establish boundaries. And when anger is expressed in the present moment in an effective and non-destructive way, it literally then is just that. It reestablishes a boundary that should have been there in the first place. And so then not only do you unload some of that energy that you may have been holding on to, but you also reestablish your safety. When we feel angry many times, it's because we feel unsafe, we feel threatened. It's very valid if you feel threatened to stand up for yourself. But the issue becomes when you have felt threatened or unsafe or violated so many times in your life that you then get to a point where you're disproportionately misdirecting your anger to everyone who you come into contact with. When it comes to my story, there was a major boundary that was crossed that I disproportionately reacted to. But from that space and me being initiated into this energy of wrath and destruction, a little dramatic, but I really gotta call it that because that's exactly what it is. I learned a lot. What I learned is that anger exists on a spectrum of emotion. And we can go back, you guys have heard me talk about this before, but I'll talk about it again. We can actually go back into this idea or this concept of the id to understand the spectrum of emotion of anger and how to actually create things that will be beautiful and efficient for everybody from the space of anger. According to Sigmund Freud, there are 3 levels of the psyche. There is the id that contains the instincts, which also contains the eros and thanatos energy. Eros being the renewal of life force, thanatos being this energy of destruction and urge to destroy. Then we have the ego, which is the sorting mechanism that decides what parts of the id actually are allowed to be expressed. Then we have the superego, which really dictates how we become or what we become in relation to the society that we're born into. And so if we think about the energy of anger and we think about its true underlying foundational emotion, which is hurt, anger being the masking emotion, hurt and pain being the underlying emotion, we can either do one of 2 things. We can choose to create new boundaries. We can choose to create new things, like literally create things with your mind, create pieces of writing, pieces of art, whatever your medium of creation is, from being inspired from the pain that you have experienced, or we can choose to destroy. And now I'm going to give you another example of how the spectrum of anger can coexist all at the same time. This energy of eros and thanatos energy, which really we can see in relation to anger, how it exists simultaneously within one person's psyche. You guys know I practice a tradition, the Isheshe tradition of Ifa, and one of my Orisha, my head is Yemoja, my feet are Ogun. Ogun is the one who opens our roads, destroys our enemies, but also Ogun is in charge of the hearts as well as in charge of this energy of creativity and really paving a new way for us to create more beautiful things in this world. And so one of my favorite stories of Ogun is when someone called on Ogun in their village in Nigeria. You guys know Isheshe, the tradition of Ifa, is based in West Africa, of course, Nigeria. And one of my favorite stories of Ogun is when someone called on Ogun's energy in a village, and he came up and destroyed and killed everybody in the village. And the whole point of this story is to exemplify that if you don't direct this energy, this heart energy, this anahata energy, if you don't direct it and have a clear direction of where you want it to go, either in the path of renewal of life or in the path of destruction, it will clear everything in its path. And so this energy that's responsible for opening our ways, for giving us blessings, for really making sure that we get the abundance and the blessings that we deserve, is also responsible for destroying the things that are in our way, that are in the way of these blessings, that are in the way of the things that we deserve. And so Ogun represents the spectrum of creativity that can either serve to be a renewal of life force or a destructor of life. And so I want you in this moment to make a pact to yourself, to stop villainizing yourself. Stop villainizing yourself for the anger that you may feel, and really get down to the root of what is the pain, what is the hurt, what is the root cause of what you are feeling. When is the first time you can remember of your boundaries being overstepped, and how can you really come into a space where you allow that energy to now be expressed? How can you come into a space where you can really allow that energy to really let that energy out in a way that is not attacking something or someone in the present moment, but that is creating something that is going to be beneficial, not just for you, not just your inner child, but also for your community. Creating something, creating a piece, creating something creative, of course, that can really allow that energy to be directed into the renewal of life force instead of disproportionate direction of that energy in the present moment to situations that you know you are not actually that angry about. We have to really be honest with ourselves. In what ways do we suppress ourselves? In what ways did we deny ourselves? And we also have to understand that this energy of inauthenticity is actually the energy that we want to annihilate. All of the ways and the reasons and all of the things that people have told you, no, you should be this, no, you should do this, no, you can't be that. What it actually does is it eats away at our ashe. It eats away at our divine energy. It eats away at the energy that just feels natural to us. It eats away at our divine essence, and it causes an inward directed self-destruction. It causes the energy of Thanos to then go within and start to destroy parts and pieces of ourselves that we have told ourselves that we should feel bad for even being connected with. And when it comes to my story, I know that this energy of lying and being someone else and trying to fit everybody else's mold, this energy of someone else telling me that inauthenticity was the safe space, this is what created the anger that I felt. This is what created the rage that I felt that ultimately led to this situation that really changed my life in a lot of ways, but of course was not a good situation. And so we have to start to ask ourselves, can we redirect that wrath? Can we redirect that anger to start to annihilate all of the cages that you have been put into? Can we start to redirect that wrath to start to annihilate all the rules that other people told you should abide by in order for things to be good in your life? When we start to redirect that wrath, not to the outside, but to all of the limiting beliefs and annihilation in a way to open our roads and live in a more erotic relationship with ourselves. When we allow ourselves to shift that wrath into a space of clearing out the path for actual authentic expression, that is the moment that we can actually begin to see true change in our relationship with ourselves. The issue is not anger. The issue is not wrath. The issue is when we don't acknowledge the true pain and hurt that we're feeling underneath all of those other emotions. And so when we get to this point, when we're in the new age spiritual industry and we're just hearing to set that boundary and to do this and to do that, many times we don't realize that we're just slipping on another coat of inauthenticity. You know exactly how you want to express yourself. And I'm not talking about your just knee-jerk reaction. I'm talking about maybe you really want to stand up for your inner child and let your inner child speak up, whether that's through a letter, whether that's through a voice note, whatever the case is. Maybe your inner child is begging to speak up. It has been begging to speak up and speak through you. Addressing that pain and that hurt from the foundation, baseline reason why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. That's how we begin to alchemize this energy of inauthenticity and transform wrath into something that is actually efficient for us and not something that we demonize about ourselves. If you're here, you're not someone who's just love and light and airy and like everything is going to be good as long as you just use your will and all that kind of stuff. You know that there's a lot more of a spectrum of emotion that you feel as a human being, and you know deep down in your heart that every spectrum of emotion can be used to your advantage. And so now the question is, are you going to stop villainizing yourself for the things that other people told you should not like about yourself, or are you going to start to use them for your advantage as well? Are you going to start to use this energy effectively and efficiently in a way that can actually clear your road and stop leading you back down over and over again to a path of inauthenticity? The energy of Ogun is one of creation and also one of destruction. And if you're someone here, and if you're like me, then you know you have the capacity for both. So the question is, are you going to dip into your full power, or are you going to continue to let other people dictate how you express and love yourself? When we love ourselves based on other people's definitions of what we should like about ourselves, that definition of self-love, that feeling of self-love is always going to be unsustainable. People are fickle. People will always try to mold you into what they want you to be. And so the only person who has a boundary issue is you. One of my favorite quotes from my teachers: the only person who has a boundary issue is you. Are you going to choose now to be the moment that you stand up for yourself, that you stand up for your inner child, that you let your voice be heard? Or are you going to continue to wear that cloak of inauthenticity and let that angry feeling within you grow and grow and grow and grow? It's time to address what really is causing you pain. And it's time to transform that pain into power, into creation, into Eros energy. The more that you deny parts of yourself, the more that you destroy yourself. But that same energy of destruction can be used to annihilate all of the limiting beliefs in your path, all of the cages that people have ever put you in, all of the societal molds and the generational curses and all the things that have been placed onto us without our permission. That same wrath can be used to annihilate all those old ways of being that you know you don't fit in. So can you redirect that energy? And can you use that energy as a tool, and not for destruction, but as one that opens the roads for your own authentic expression, knowing that your authentic expression is the open road to your alignment, to your destiny, to where you're supposed to actually be, not to the spaces that you've been tolerating or that have been tolerating you. Anger is not your enemy. Don't let anybody villainize you. Anybody villainize you for the anger that you feel. But it's time for you to address that hurt and that pain so that you can transform that into something fucking beautiful. I trust that this video has helped you transform how you see yourself. And to be honest, the people who I'm for, the people who my work is for, are people who exist on the full spectrum of human emotions and who are ready to live in their truth. So comment anything, any reflections, anything that's come up from this video that you feel connected to, or any reflections from this space. And don't forget, Black Moon is so close to being finished, you guys. Probably by the end of the week, it will be released. This is 7 Deadly Sins, integrating the 7 Deadly Sins, 7 core traumas, and shadow work like you've never experienced it before. I'll see you there.